the best sewing machine foot when it comes to freezer paper piecing? I get this question pretty frequently, and in this video, I'm going to give you my best answer for choosing a sewing machine foot when it comes to freezer paper piecing. And if you don't know me, my name is Rebecca Bryan. I'm the author of Modern Triangle Quilts and Modern Rainbow Quilts. I'm also the founder of the Make Modern Triangles Club, where I teach thousands of quilters from all over the world how to make beautiful blockbuster modern triangle quilts. And by the way, if you'd like to try out freezer paper piecing, I've put together a free class that walks you through the entire process from start to finish using one of my modern triangles. Head on over to makemoderntriangles.com and you can sign up for the class today. And then at the end of class, you'll get your exclusive special invitation to join the Make Modern Triangles Club. All right, in the next few minutes, I'll be demonstrating what each of these three sewing machine feet look like as I'm freezer paper piecing this modern triangle right here. So just to quickly introduce you to each of these three feet. So this is just a regular standard stitching foot, I think. I don't know my feet that well, but this is just a standard foot right here. This foot is a walking foot, and this is the foot I use all the time. This is my go-to foot. And then this is a stitch in the ditch foot, and this has been recommended to me by a couple of my members, so I'm kind of eager to try it. The idea of that stitch in the ditch foot, and this, I'll show you exactly what it does for freezer paper piecing, it kind of excites me, so I'm excited to try that out. So a little backstory, I swear by this walking foot. It's what I tell my members to use all the time. But a couple months ago, I was teaching in person in Pennsylvania, and I was demonstrating the freezer paper piecing technique live, and I happened to use a standard foot, and it kind of worked in a surprising way. So it kind of made me want to experiment with using different feet. Okay, let me get my machine rolling and I will demonstrate. We're first going to start out with this regular standard foot. Okay, first up is this regular sewing machine foot. Okay, so I'm going to stitch right alongside the fold using this regular foot here. And it seems to be going okay. Yeah, this seems to be working just fine. So in the past, when I've used a regular machine foot, I've noticed that sometimes my freezer paper comes undone from the fabric, which is a problem. But right now, it seems to be flowing just fine. All right, now, secondly, I'm going to demonstrate using a walking foot. So the reason I use the walking foot all the time is because the walking foot has feed dogs on the actual foot itself. So the feed dogs on top work with the feed dogs on the bottom in your sewing machine to bring both the paper and the fabric through your sewing machine at the same pace. So let's see what that looks like in action. All right, so as I'm stitching right next to the fold, I mean, for me, this is a pretty standard experience, and I've used the walking foot all the time in the past because when I've tried a standard foot, I noticed that the paper doesn't go through the machine at the same pace as my fabric. So that's why I've used the walking foot, and it's giving me expected awesome results. All right, and then the last foot I'm going to try, and then trying this for the very first time right now, right here, is the stitch in the ditch walking foot here. And the cool thing about this foot is it's got a special piece of metal right here that I'll be able to just run this along the fold as I'm sewing right next to it. Okay, so I've got my unit ready to be sewn, and I've got this metal that's just skirting right here along the fold. So ideally, as I sew, this piece of metal will keep my paper fold out from under the needle. So ideally, I won't sew through the paper. All right, good. So I'm noticing that this is shortening my stitches a little bit. So the feed dogs for the machine aren't as able to move the unit through the machine as fast as with the other feet. So my stitches are really tiny, which is okay, but it might cause a problem. It's going, but the unit isn't going as fast as it should be. Okay, so I've just walked you through 3 different feet in making this modern triangle foot. And I personally kind of had some surprises. So I was impressed by the way that I was able to freezer paper piece using a standard foot. And that was my experience that I learned in Pennsylvania. So you can use a standard foot. I love my walking foot. That performed as expected. I really liked how the walking foot carried the paper and the fabric through the machine at the same rate. Now, the stitch in the ditch foot, it was cool, but for my machine, I don't think I'm going to use it in the future. And I'll tell you why. So as we were stitching, my needle was going up and down, but the fabric wasn't moving as fast as it was with the other 2 feet. And if you were able to look closely at my fabric here, you'll see that my stitches were about half the length as the regular other stitches. So they are really tiny, and it's really hard to see here because it's white on white, but the stitches were very, very short. So for me, I am going to stick with using my walking foot or my standard foot. So bottom line, while the walking foot is my foot of preference, the take-home message for you is to experiment with the feet that come with your machine. Now, if you're just starting and playing with freezer paper piecing, I would give your standard foot a try before buying any new feet. And then as you fall in love with the freezer paper piecing technique, and you will because it is magic, then I would invest in a walking foot if you could. But bottom line is experiment, play around with what you already have, fall in love with the technique, and then make any investments that you might want to. So in this video, I demonstrated 3 different sewing machine feet that you could consider using for freezer paper piecing. Now, again, if you'd like to try this technique, I've put together a free class just for you. And in this class, I walk you through the freezer paper piecing technique from start to finish using one of my modern triangles. Not this one. It's one of my favorites. This one is good, but it's not one of my favorites. So head on over to makemoderntriangles.com and you can sign up for the class and play with the technique today and make your first modern triangle. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another video. Bye for now.